In the heart of a tranquil eastern village, there lived a sage renowned for his wisdom. The villagers sought his guidance on all matters, big and small. One day, a troubled villager approached the sage and said, "O wise one, my mind is in constant turmoil. My thoughts wander like wild horses, pulling me in every direction. I wish to find peace and control over my mind." The sage listened attentively, then invited the villager to sit by the riverbank. He handed the villager a small empty basket and said, "Go to the river and fill this basket with water." Puzzled, the villager obeyed, but no matter how quickly he dipped the basket into the river and pulled it out, the water would always seep through the holes, leaving the basket empty. After countless futile attempts, the villager finally surrendered, saying, "It's impossible to fill this basket with water." The sage nodded. Just as you cannot fill the basket with water, so too is it impossible to control every passing thought in your mind. Thoughts are like water, flowing freely and unpredictably. Instead of trying to hold on to every thought, let them come and go like ripples in the river. The villager contemplated the sage's words and asked, "But how can I find peace amidst the chaos of my thoughts?" The sage pointed to the towering mountains in the distance. "Do you see those mountains? They stand unshaken, regardless of the weather or the seasons. Just as the mountains remain rooted, you can find tranquility by becoming the observer of your thoughts, rather than being consumed by them." With a newfound sense of purpose, the villager returned to the village and began practicing the sage's advice. Each day, he would sit by the riverbank, watching his thoughts come and go like leaves floating on the water. Gradually, he learned to detach from his thoughts, allowing them to drift away without judgment or attachment. One day, while sitting by the river, the villager had a realization. He realized that his thoughts were not his true essence. They were like passing clouds in the vast sky of his mind. With this newfound insight, a deep sense of peace enveloped him. He no longer felt the need to control his thoughts, but instead focused on cultivating a stillness within. As time went on, the villager's demeanor transformed. He radiated a sense of calm and clarity that drew others to him. People from neighboring villages began seeking his guidance, just as they had sought the sages. One day, a young traveler arrived in the village, disheartened by the chaos of his own mind. He sought the wisdom of the villager, who shared his story and the lessons he had learned. The traveler was inspired and asked, "But how can I develop this ability to observe my thoughts?" The villager smiled and said, "Imagine that your mind is a vast, clear sky. Thoughts are like clouds passing through. Rather than clinging to each cloud, simply observe them as they drift by. With time and practice, you will find that the clouds become lighter, and the sky remains calm." The traveler was deeply moved by the villager's words and decided to stay in the village to learn this practice. Day by day, he honed his ability to observe his thoughts without getting entangled in them. He found that in the space between his thoughts, there was a silence that held profound wisdom and serenity. Years passed, and the traveler became a teacher himself, passing on the wisdom he had gained to others who sought solace and control over their minds. The village became known far and wide as a place of tranquility and inner peace. The story reminds us that just as the villager learned to observe his thoughts without attachment, we too can find peace by becoming observers of our own minds. In the business of life, we often forget that our thoughts are transient, and we have the power to choose which ones to engage with. By cultivating the ability to detach from our thoughts, we create space for clarity and calmness to emerge. Moreover, the story teaches us the value of patience and practice. Like the villager and the traveler, it takes time to develop the skill of observing thoughts without judgment. With dedication and perseverance, we can transform the chaotic stream of thoughts into a tranquil river of mindfulness. Ultimately, the story of the Eastern village reminds us that true control over our thoughts comes not from suppression or manipulation, but from embracing the ebb and flow of our mental landscape. In this embrace, we find the freedom to navigate life's challenges with a clear mind and a peaceful heart.